Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. Before starting, if you enjoyed this content, if you learned something, giving it a like and a subscribe to the video, it's a free way to support the channel as I can continue to create more content like this. Now going into the track guide itself, turn 1 you have to carry the speed into the corner. So my reference for braking is the 50-meter board. I'm gonna brake, you see, at the 50, almost parallel to the 50, maybe slightly before it. But what I'm trying to do on purpose is to shoot the car deep into the corner with as much speed as I can control. And what I mean by that is that you want to start here when you're practicing by spinning the car into this corner or understeering on the exit, one of the two, because you're carrying too much speed. It's super easy here to lose time if you're just going a bit slower. So shooting the car deep, see the delta going green, so a lot of speed here on entry, trail braking up until I hit the middle of this curb, and whenever I touch the curb I put the throttle down. What I aim for is on the exit I want to have the car in the center of the track. If you're all the way on the left you're gonna lose time, repositioning. If you're more on the right side you're not using all the track, so you're carrying a bit less speed. I'm bringing the car all the way on this curb, and notice that I'm putting my right tires all the way to the grass. You have to do this in order to open up the corner. So when turning into the corner, it's just a lift and 1% brakes, no more. You see, 1% on the brakes and now going back on throttle. And you have to cut those yellow anti-curbs like this. On the exit, ideally, you will be here in the center right. So you can prepare this corner, and for this corner you have to brake maybe a bit more than in the previous one. I'm using 4% on the brakes, but it doesn't really matter. The idea is that you barely touch the brakes, you barely feather the brakes. And if you don't have good pedals, or whenever you're pushing the brakes, let's say you're putting 10-20% on the brakes, then just do a lift. Do a lift and don't touch the brakes at all, just lift into these corners. You'll be better off by having more speed rather than killing the car's speed. I'm just using this bit of brake just to make the front end point. But with this car rotates a lot, so even without the brake, the car will rotate quite nicely. You're gonna cut the anti-curbs and then using all the track on the exit. And now the next two corners, the same idea, same idea, it's just that you have to brake a bit more into this one because you have a bit more speed. That's the only thing. So using all the track, again, braking 30%, quickly dropping it, trail braking up until the curb, and now putting the power down while cutting the anti-curbs like this. For the next corner, again a small lift, 5% on the brakes, cutting the anti-curb and getting back on throttle. So same rhythm, just that you have a bit more speed coming into the first chicane, into the second chicane here. So because you have a bit more speed, you just have to brake a bit more initially, but it's the same thing with the repositioning, with your brake in the second one. Now for the next corner, the downhill part, use all the track, have your left tires on this curb, and now when turning in the corner you have to brake a bit more than you think, so I'm picking close to 40%, and then you want to stay on the brakes up until the car rotates and almost goes to the grass. Because the moment that the car is pointing to the grass, then you can go on throttle, like right now, and the car will lose its rotation and it will go straight again. But it's super important to cut all this green. Stay on throttle, and the rev limiter is gonna hit. Don't upshift to fourth, let it hit. Just do a lift for this corner, touch this inside curb, then go back on throttle. Don't do this hesitation though, this lost me close to a tenth. So whenever you go on power, stay on power, don't drop it. And now for the next corner, you will put the car all the way to the white line, but don't go on the curb. If you will go on the curb, the car will be lazy to turn, so don't use the curb here. Just turn with 100% throttle, the rev limiter is gonna hit, but don't upshift to fourth. Touch this curb while doing a lift, and now when going uphill, do not upshift to fourth gear. Do not do it, because you're going uphill and you will lose torque, and this is exactly what I'm doing. So I was gaining quite a lot here, and I would continue to gain if I didn't upshift to fourth gear. So this was a mistake. I just did it automatically because the rev limiter was in my ear, so I didn't have time to do one more lap. But if I would have done one more lap, then I would not upshift fourth. You look at the delta now. So even though I'm having a good line here, just barely touching this curb, small lift, I'm still losing time on the uphill part because you don't have enough torque. Even though at the moment when the rev limiter was hitting, you had a lot, because you immediately go uphill, you can't properly use fourth gear. So stay in third, it's gonna be a lot quicker, use all the track like this. And now for the next corner, I'm braking on the white line but slightly on the curb. You don't want to brake all the way with all the tire on the curb, because you will lose a bit of grip under braking. You will hit your brake and downshift to third, and there are two possible lines here into this corner. You can either cut it here very hard, so you will arrive more on the right side, you will have less speed, but you will gain that time on the next one. Or you can do what I'm doing here, going very deep here and then going here with third gear and cutting like this. So both lines work, and because there's not a long straight, you arrive immediately into the next corner, it can be almost the same lap time. So I think those lines are quite equal. But if you want to work the tire less, you can just prepare the second corner a bit more, because right now you would notice that I use the steering wheel a lot, so that can be an advantage. If you're not doing my approach, you will steer a bit less. Now for the next corner, I'm looking at the 50 and I'm braking past the 50 or past the white line. Right now in third gear, I'm just want to hold the brakes a lot in this corner. This is a long corner, so still on the brakes, still trail braking 30%, 15, 9%, still on the brakes. Now I'm downshifting to second, and notice that I'm downshifting very late to second gear. Don't go quickly on the downshifts, because you're turning and braking at the same time. If you will add a downshift, the car can spin, or you will have a moment you have to correct it with the front tire, so it won't be fast. Pushing the throttle now, staying close and hugging this curb, and you will get all the way to this curb. That's fine, because you can cut the next one like this, almost going like in a straight line for those two corners. And now we arrive at the last one, which is very similar to the one we had before it. Braking past the 50. So right now I'm applying the brakes. I'm looking here at this apex and I'm going diagonally towards it. And again, long trail braking, still on the brakes, downshifting to second very late. And quickly afterwards I go on power. Try to do it without this correction. So I was a bit too early on power. Instead, what you want to be to stay a bit more on the brakes, and then whenever you will go on throttle, you will fully commit. But in short, that's a track guide around Mugello with the MX5. It's a great combo, and I hope you'll have a great week racing this. And if you want to improve at a quicker pace, if you want to improve your racing skills, both racecraft or race pace, check out my sim racing course, it's in the video description, and looking forward to see you in the next one. Bye bye!